Hi guys, welcome to my study 2 demonstration. First, I'm gonna show you guys all of the ingredients and measurements that I used for the clay paste. I did end up making a lot because I wasn't sure how much I was going to need, and I wanted to make sure that I had enough. So I'm just gonna blab a little bit about what I'm gonna be demonstrating. I'm not gonna go through the whole how to make a clay paste because we've already gotten so many great demonstrations of that. But what I'm going to be showing you guys is the technique that I used and the trials and tribulations that I went through doing my study number 2. So I'm going to demonstrate the technique that I used when using clay paste to resist indigo when doing a gradient. So I found this process pretty time consuming, as most of the process was about 95% pasting the clay and letting it dry, and 5% was actually doing the dyeing. So here's when I started to paint the clay onto my silk. I laid some towels down to ensure that all of the leftover clay was being soaked up and not just getting onto the table, but I realized that this was a bad idea because the towel fibers were getting stuck to the silk and it was making it really hard for me to paint my line straight. It was all super jaggedy, raggedy, and it was just not cute. So here's the first indigo dip that I did. I found that it was pretty successful for my first dip. I did 5 minutes in the indigo, and when we took it out, we laid it out onto a towel on the table so that it can dry quickly so that I can paint the paste back on. So this is the part where I noticed the clay paste kind of getting everywhere, and this is why I wanted to lay it out flat to dry so that it wouldn't get onto the parts where I wanted to dye. And here I'm painting a second layer just to ensure that when I put it back into the dye that it keeps its resistance and that the clay paste doesn't rub off. So this is after the second dip in the indigo, and you can kind of tell that it's getting a little bit light and the indigo might have been getting depleted. We find that out later on. But yeah, this is my third layer of painting on the clay on the first line. And this was when I realized that this was going to be a very long process. Unfortunately, this did not turn out very well because the vat got depleted. And after 4 rounds of indigo and 4 rounds of the clay paste, it didn't look very good, so I had to stop and continue later on. So this is attempt number 2. I clipped the fabric onto the board so that it just doesn't move around when I painted the clay resist on, and it worked pretty well. All my lines are pretty straight. We are heating up the banana vat and Lucy's leftover vat right now to test which one is better, but I have zero hopes. Thank you. We're just gonna jump right into the end of all of my dyeing here. Thank God Lucy's vat was still good and the indigo turned out to be very deep in color, which is exactly what I wanted. So here you can see all of the lines that I painted on and how it did resist the dye. It's clearly white, and that means that the fabric underneath is also white. I owe all my success to Natalie for telling me to pin down my fabric onto a board and to paint it with a smaller brush, and Lucy for having a great vat. And here's my final product laying out to dry in its gorgeousness. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thank you, Beyonce.